Hi, I'm Brian, and welcome to part 2 of my 3-part series on Robert Fripp's MOR Trilogy from 1978 to 1980. And apparently, what happened was Robert Fripp was going in the search of a new, more radio-friendly sound, and so he decided to record, produce, and play on 3 albums which would help him get there. This could be completely apocryphal, but still, it's a great story, and I'm going with it. And the first album he was going to do in 1978 was Daryl Hall's Sacred Songs. I've done a review of that, which you can see the link in the comments. The second was going to be Peter Gabriel's second album, the Scratch album. And the third was going to be the Uber Masterwork, which is his own album, Exposure. But there were problems because Daryl Hall's record company did not want Sacred Songs to come out, as they didn't think it was going to be that radio friendly. So Daryl Hall was out. That left Peter Gabriel to come out first. So he came out first in 1978, and coming out second was Exposure by Robert Fripp. And then that album that I just threw down on the ground, which you can find the link for my review in the comments, Sacred Songs by Daryl Hall, that came out third. So here we had the first of the Robert Fripp trilogy albums, and it's Peter Gabriel too, as I said, the album called Scratch. And isn't that just an amazing cover by Hypnosis? And apparently these are all strips of paper which were glued onto the photo to get that effect. Looks incredible. What album covers they came up with early on. There's the back cover there. And then we have the inner, which is really sort of a poster thing with the lyrics as opposed to an inner sleeve. And there we go. That wonderful artistic, it's a bit of quality which Hypnosis is really known for. And this is a 1980 Australian pressing on the Charisma label. And there you have it. So this was Peter Gabriel's second album, and it's the first one that I've actually ever owned. And here's the thing about me and Peter Gabriel. I think there's a great argument that he's a genius, but I don't generally like the genius's work. And I've listened to all of his work with Genesis, most of his solo albums as well. But for this, I've really taken a deep dive. And interestingly enough, when I first started listening to this, I was thinking, no, this is going to get purged. But the more I listen to it, and particularly the audio samples that I've got coming, I start to think this is quite brilliant as well. Now, interestingly, when Daryl Hall and Robert Fripp were together, it seemed like a seamless blend of chemistry. They collaborated so well. But here, it didn't seem to go down as well as on the Daryl Hall album. And sort of Robert Fripp's producing with that sense of spontaneity, and there's some disagreements apparently occurred in terms of mixing, arranging, and producing. The personnel on this album is really very impressive. There's Peter Gabriel, there's Fripp, and there's Tony Levin, of course, plus a list of thousands. Look them up. They're on Wikipedia. Anyway, so what would happen here? Would I finally be able to get an in to get into Peter Gabriel? Would I be able to find my entrance in there? Or would I be stay locked out forever? And was Robert Fripp's influence here a really good thing or not? There's so many questions to answer. Maybe I'll get to them at the end of this video. I hope I do. But why don't we get straight into the album now? On the air, on the air, on the air, on the air. We start off with On the Air, which is a nice sort of self-referential idea, I suppose. And it's a song that I did not connect with early on, but the more I've listened to it, the more I've grown to appreciate it. It's sort of like standard rock fare, and there's something very British about it, but it does have prog elements. I love when it comes down to a quiet moment, and Robert Fripp's guitar playing comes in, but it is quite low in the mix, but the tone is absolutely crystalline. It's beautiful. Oh, it's not easy. No, it's not easy making real friends. Now, when the vocals come back in, it reminds me quite a lot of Freddie Mercury singing Now I'm Here. But the ending of the song is where it's all at for me, from the bass groove onwards. Tony Levin just getting this fat, whacked out bass, which is so cool. And it's just another avenue for him to strut his stuff. And I love those shimmering keyboards, which are supplied as a platform to get us out. But it's that massive bass tone, which is all good. Let's have a listen. now we have D.I.Y, which is the only single on the album. And there's something unsettling in the riff. It seems like it should be kind of normal and groovy, but there's something quite unsettling about this riff. And that's the sort of elements of prog and new wave. I love the vocals that are floating around when there are two of them. And Gabriel has an almost conversational tone with his delivery. But there's a problem here, and the problem is I'm finding it very difficult to work out what he's saying. I mean, he has a sort of a voice which reminds me a bit of Roger Chapman from Family, but instead of all that vibrato, it has sort of like a reflux thing happening. I don't know. So I'm struggling to work out the lyrics, but I'm not a huge lyric guy, although it's edifying to know that he had to point out that DIY stands for do it yourself, as I thought it might have been dressed in yogurt or drowning in yak piss or even doing it yoga style. Yeah. Where did that come from? Mother of Violence is the third song on the album, and I absolutely love this. Such a whimsical, soulful start on the guitar, and it's supported by the piano and the vocal. I absolutely love it. And that great razor slicing towards the end. And it's a favorite of mine because of its daintiness. And at the end of it, we have some vocalizing. And so there's no need to worry when we've got a little bit of scatting or vocalizing going on. And the closing section of this song is quite beautiful. I'm sure you know it already, but why don't we have a go at it?
Hard to breathe, hard to believe in anything at all, but fear.
So next up, we have A Wonderful Day in a One-Day World. And what a great idea this is. If you've only got one day left, you better make it wonderful rather than drowning in yak piss or getting depressed. We have a vaguely reggae sort of feel here, which was ubiquitous in the new wave towards the end of the 1970s. Even a touch of lap steel guitar, and warning, there's a cowbell coming. But it reminds me quite a bit, and I like this, it reminds me quite a bit of Alice Cooper, circa Hollywood Alice or Las Vegas Alice. Songs like Give the Kid a Break, or just a show tune in itself. And also has an element of a version of Supertramp that wasn't quite ready to sell out for hits. R.I.P. Rick. Absolutely love you, Rick Davies. You're absolutely magnificent. Lots of absolutelys. And that moves us on now to a great song, I think, which is called White Shadow. The beginning of this song sounds stellar, but also interstellar. It's so sumptuous. And from the first instrumental build-up, this song is sublime. It reminds me a little bit of, I can't reach for it, unfortunately, of the song NYCNY off Sacred Songs by Daryl Hall. But, I'm talking specifically about the middle section where it all comes down to earth. The bass drums and the bass and the drums are laid down to create a slow but funky feel. And there's also a hint of a Middle Eastern scale in here. Sort of that might be sort of like that sense of off-putting again, that sense of alienation again. And then Fripp takes a solo which really accelerates the volume and intensity of this song and the dynamics of this song as it progresses. It's like a masterclass in using arpeggios to build a guitar solo. There's something quite normal about the guitar solo when it started, but by the end it's pure Robert Fripp. Maybe my favorite song to this point. And it made me wonder why all these bands hire cock rock guitarists to be their special guests on their albums when you can just get Robert Fripp and transform it into a piece of art. Absolutely incredible. So then again, I seem to be talking a bit about Robert Fripp, don't I? And this is a Peter Gabriel solo album, where it should be a collaboration. So mixed results so far throughout the album, but I'm interested to see what's on side 2. Subdued opens the second side, and it has a real Indigo sort of. Actually, Indigo starts the second side, and it has a real subdued tone to it. It has almost like this mournful pa pa sort of feel to it, which sounds incredibly stupid, but the canny listener will be able to appreciate what I'm talking about, even when I'm not sure what I'm talking about here anyway. There's an impassioned vocal from Peter Gabriel, and each song sounds like he's really personally committed to the words and the flow, and he definitely has this unique vocal delivery. I'm not sure I always connect with it though, that's an issue. There are elements of Bloody Well Right, and there's nothing wrong with that, and a touch of the groove from Benny and the Jets. So check out Indigo as we move on to Animal Magic, which is this honky tonk sort of shuffle, which didn't do much for me at all until we came up to this multi level solo, and which blossoms it into this funky section, which is really cool. There's an uncredited guitar solo here, which I'm digging. Everything's in place. It's just got a certain indulgence. There's a lot of songs which go for the mini epic aesthetic do, trying to cram in too much at the one time. But the lyrics are fairly daunting and dark when it's talking about joining the British Army, not an easy thing to do in the 1970s, becoming a professional, becoming a man. Let's have a listen to a bit of that.
Now that I'm a man, do all that animal magic, I'll match anything you can. I'm joining the professionals, this time I understand. There's no way you'll get by me with the slightest sleight of hand. You're joining the professionals, I wanna be a man.
Exposure is the only song which is co-written by Robert Fripp on the album, and of course he would use the title as the title of his solo album and also include the song Exposure on his solo album. But right from the start, this is almost like the Tony Levin show because of his fat bass. And I know we get these beautiful Frippertronics circling all over the place, but that bass line really makes it, along with Jerry Marotta's drumming, which is like simple, defined, distinct, and very tight. He's not overplaying at all, though the snare drum does sound a little bit like he's flogging a wet cardboard box. All of this is, of course, overpinned or underpinned, whatever the word is, by Frippertronics. And I love Peter Gabriel when he comes in giving those whispered, hushed tones in the lyrics. But when he gets more expansive and more melodramatic, if we want to use that word, I'm not sure it works for me as well. And it sort of almost goes into the David Bowie, John Lennon fame world, you know, fame, that sort of thing. Exposure. Anyway, let's have a listen to a bit of it while we're here. We may never meet again. So why don't we listen to a little bit of Exposure while we're here? Interesting idea. Catch you on the other side of this song. See you soon. Flotsam and Jetsam is up next, and I had to just sort of go around in my brain and see if I could work out the definitions to distinguish these. And I feel that flotsam is stuff which goes overboard unintentionally from a boat and then floats on the surface, and that jetsam is stuff which is intentionally thrown over and meant to sink, you know. So if you were trying to get rid of a body or something like that, you know, as you see in those movies, something like along the lines of that. But what we have, if we can extend the metaphor a little here, is I think is we have all this flotsam that's just bobbling along or bobbing along on the ocean, and we've gone in and we've picked out bits of flotsam and we've put them together. And the more that we put together, strangely here, seems to work really well. This song's driven by the piano, which is usually not a favorite thing of mine, but it works here. So there's still hope for me yet. I wonder though what some of the songs would have sounded like if the piano was taken out or reshaped, and whether Robert Fripp was saying, you know what, we could get rid of that piano, and Peter Gabriel saying, don't touch my piano or cut your arm off or something like that. Peter Gabriel, he's got his serious man. Besides Robert Fripp, what are you doing? Perspective is up next, and it's a bit of a strutter, and then we're moving towards the end of the album. I don't know why we need a long saxophone solo when you only get a short one from Robert Fripp. Hell, I could have used Tony Levin to play a bass solo here. Would have been good, but that's just my preference. The Fripp solo is swallowed up by singing and piano, but a great strutter for a live gig. I would think it would really come alive on stage. And I wonder whether this song could have been a single, perhaps. Perspective could have been a single. It's got that driving piano, it's got that saxophone, and it's got, maybe it's a Robert Fripp thing. Maybe it's not adult radio friendly enough. Maybe they'd have to trim it and go along like you're going to the butcher or something like that. I'm not sure. But, they have reasons for these songs and they know what they are. We come up to the last song on the album, which is called Home Sweet Home. And I'll just play you that first section of it right now.
Met this girl called Josephine. I took her up on my machine. We had a little fun, and now we got a little one. Had to get married, being chased out of town. Found ourselves a place to live. We put all our money down. Sweet home, sweet home.
It's a beautiful start, so elegant and tender, and it's about the inaffordability of housing, the overcrowding crisis, and the impact that it's having on families. But as we go into this and we're so invested in these characters, something horrible and devastating occurs in the middle, which I won't go into, but it's absolutely, it touches the heart so much. And then from where the story goes from there, and it's almost like trying to prove the idea that there's a silver lining in every cloud. I'm just not sure. It's whether I'm on board with it and whether I'm fully supportive of what happens to the protagonist in this story. I sort of expected it to go into bombast again, sort of like something like Alice Cooper's Always Chasing Rainbows, but it doesn't really do that, and it holds on to the tenderness and the happiness, I suppose, that was mentioned earlier. Peter Gabriel really stretches himself vocally at the end, and I suppose that's where the bombast is. But I feel that this song is a little bit stuck in between the bombast and the sublime. Don't know. This could be one that really will make an impact on me and will stay with me for a long time, or maybe it's something I will forget. Now, I'm never going to forget it, but whether I like it or not is another question. It's a pretty incredible way to finish this album, though. That I will definitely say. Oops, I nearly forgot something else that came with this record. This beautiful company sleeve from Atlantic. Ooh, weren't albums great back in the day? And I think this one's particularly pertinent because of these two. Where is my finger going to stop on? Selling England by the pound or Lark's Tongues and Aspic and its finishes? Right there. That's my favourite there. But what are your favourites? How cool is that? Wouldn't that be great? That's why we need records, people, because with things like this, these little discoveries which make you go, ooh, fantastic. Life's too short. So I'm not really trying to rank these albums one against the other. For me, it's a little less enjoyable than Sacred Songs by Daryl Hall. But, and I can make some criticisms of this, but they're all personal. Is there too much piano on this? Is there too much sax? Am I not getting into his voice? Is there not enough Fripp? And I can ask these questions over and over and over. But the real thing that's important is that 2 weeks ago, this was going to be purged, and it's still in my collection. And some of these songs are really staying in my head. And so there is hope that maybe I can start to unlock and unpick what the genius of Peter Gabriel is trying to communicate with me. It's all on me. I fully appreciate that. And I look forward to another play and another play. So I'm not thinking next time, am I going to purge this or not? I'm just thinking, I'm going to listen to that again. I'm going to listen to that again in the fullness of time. And it has given me a lot of pleasure to hear how this second album is going to sort of unpick the Robert Fripp MOR Trilogy. A lot of pleasure indeed, and reminding you that if music of any size, shape, sound, or white shadow gives you pleasure, then who am I to argue with your opinion? Hope you dig this album, and I hope you're doing really well. If you'd like to have a look at some more of my videos, there's some right up there right now, and that'd be great. I'd love for you to leave a comment as well. But apart from that, I hope you're doing really well, and until next time, you're staying cool, and bye now.